The sacred is revealed in the ordinary. There is a beauty in this. But how do we discover the mystery of the sacred in our seemingly mundane existence? Welcome to Revealed, a podcast sponsored by Resurrection Catholic Parish in Green Bay, Wisconsin. Let's join our hosts, Katie McAllister and Tony Pickler, as they explore the lives of people, organizations, and resources that will help us delve into the sacredness of the ordinary.
Well, welcome to another episode of the Revealed podcast. As you've probably picked up by now, if you've been listening to our shows, you know that we are trying to discover the sacred in the ordinariness of our lives. We're doing that by looking at the lives of people who we think have some real sacredness about them. We're looking at organizations that we can get involved with and in that way discover and experience the sacred in our lives. And then our third way, and what we're going to do today, is to look at a tool, a practice, a resource that will hopefully help you and help us to examine our lives, to reflect a little bit more on our busy lives. So just one really important thing to remember about the Examen, and really any of these tools that we'll be presenting to you in this podcast, is that they're not for everybody, right? So one tool might work well for you, and then another, not so much. So you really have to kind of be choosing what works. Try them out. Try it before you buy it, kind of thing. And if you find that this is something that helps you in your walk, fantastic. And if not, leave it behind. And hopefully another tool that we roll out later this year, that'll stick with you. So,
and isn't that the beauty of life? Like, not everything is perfect for everybody. You have to find what works for you, and that's what we're hoping to do for you.
That's why I love cafeteria, smorgasbord kinds of things. You know, I like that, don't like that. Mm-hmm. Love that. Gonna overindulge in that, but those peas not so much.
Yeah,
right? So so that's kind of the way these spiritual tools go. Yeah. They don't work for everybody, but hopefully you can at least give it a chance. Mm-hmm. So that's what we're going to be about today, because we know that there's an old saying. Socrates said this way back whenever that was, that the unexamined life or the unreflected life is not worth living. So I'd say
harsh.
If he was a pretty smart guy. Mm-hmm. So I would say if he says that, then maybe we should reflect a little bit more on our lives.
Yeah, because Tony, I can only speak for myself, but I am busy. Between work and personal life and, family life and, just all the extracurricular activities, it's hard to find those times to just kind of chill out and slow down. Especially now, holidays are coming up. We got Thanksgiving coming up, Christmas and Advent, and this is a great time that we can kind of, especially in Advent, slow down, be more reflective.
Yeah, some people say it's the best time of the year, but it's also the busiest time of the year, and you try to schedule something with somebody now. You've got holiday parties and shopping and Christmas cards and cooking and baking and all that stuff. It's like, when do you find time to even meet with each other? So, it's a busy time, and so that's probably an even more important time to slow it down a little bit, to reflect a little bit more. So we're going to be looking at a tool called the Examen.
The Examen? I am done with school. I am not doing any more exams, Tony.
Time out there, Katie girl. Not the Examen. The Examen. The Examen. It's close. Mm-hmm. It's close. Ends in M-E-N instead of M-I-N-E.
All right. As long as I'm not doing a test, I'm okay.
It's going. Not exactly like the school exams you took with that, maybe it didn't go so well. Mm-hmm. I know they didn't for me sometimes, especially in math, geometry, algebra. Sorry, Mom and Dad. I tried.
Well, I aced all my tests. I just don't remember them.
Oh, well.
I remember the information.
Overachiever. Yeah. Okay. Well, so the Examen is like the Examen in the fact that you're kind of taking a stock of your life, of how it went, just like an exam. Mm-hmm. The teacher was trying to figure out, what did you learn through the course, right? In this way, we're trying to take a step back and to look at our lives and examine or examine them.
Ah.
So,
do you know any of the history? Like, where did this come from? Can you clue us in? What did you make this up, or where did this come from?
No, I did not make this up. This is an ancient tool. It didn't just happen yesterday, all right? So St. Ignatius of Loyola was the founder of the Jesuit religious order that's worldwide, men all over the world.
Pope Francis is a Jesuit,
Pope Francis is a Jesuit. Yeah, Marquette University is a Jesuit school, that kind of thing. But St. Ignatius lived in the 16th century, right around the time of the Reformation, Martin Luther and all of that. And he had been injured in war. And it was in the time of his recouping from his injuries that he developed this practice that he called the spiritual exercises. And that turned into an 8-day retreat of these exercises and then a 30-day retreat. And so all Jesuits have to go through like a 30-day retreat every once in a while. And many people go to places like the Jesuit Retreat House in Oshkosh and take part in the spiritual exercises. But part of the spiritual exercises that Ignatius developed was this thing called the Examen, where you took kind of a stock of your day and reflected on it, where the sacred, where the holy, where God was present in your day, where you felt most close to the sacred, and then where did you feel not close to the sacred? When did your day kind of get messed up? When did you get derailed or thrown off a little bit? So that's what St. Ignatius was all about. He was trying to give people a tool to help them to examine their life.
And it's so cool that even though this was, 500 years ago, that it still applies to today. That just tells you about life. Yeah, it's 500.
Yeah, pretty good at math. I'm doing the math in my brain there.
I wish everybody could see you calculating because, you were
doing math. Did you see the smoke coming out of my ears?
Yes.
So that's where it comes from. And it's been around for a long, long time, and people have used it in their daily lives. Some people have used it on retreat. Some people who are in religious orders use this. But you don't have to be a monk. You don't have to be a priest. You don't have to be a sister to use the Examen. The Examen can be done by anybody. That's why we're talking about it today.
Perfect. Well, should we jump right into it? Kind of give our listeners how you do this. So the first thing is always to kind of quiet yourself. Find a time that is, kind of free of distractions, kind of a quieter moment. I know when I do my version of the Examen, I'm usually in bed. I'm usually at the end of the day, winding down, and this is kind of the process that you go through. So the first part is finding the things that you're grateful for. So what are those gifts in your life that happen through the day that you're grateful for? So that's the first thing, giving thanks to God for those gifts and blessings.
This is a 5-step process, and so that's the first step. And the second step is just really asking for the spiritual, for the holy, for God to shine some light on all of the moments of your day, to help you recall what went on. Who are the people that you met? What are the events that took place? Where are the places that you went? So to kind of just shine some light, to enlighten the day a little bit so that you can really reflect on it and try to figure out and reflect upon where was the spiritual, where was the holy, where was God in those moments. So that's step 2, is just asking for the light to be shown on all the moments of our day.
The third step is probably more of the longer step, wouldn't you say? It's a little bit longer because you go through the moments of your day. So kind of replay your day. What were those moments that were moments of consolation that brought you to happiness, to joy? And what were some of those moments or events that kind of brought you to desolation, that kind of brought you down, kind of the gunk of the day? And then how did you react to that? How did you feel and how did you react to those moments, of those high moments and then those low moments? a lot of people, I know families will do like the high lows. What were your highs of the day and what were your lows of the day? And it's kind of like that, where you're going through each moment, replaying it and finding out where were those highs and where were those lows.
And those two words are really important, by the way, to Jesuits and to this whole process: consolation, desolation. Consolation, like just as you said, like where are you feeling most connected to the holy and to the sacred? Desolation, where are you feeling the most disconnected? Where are you feeling the farthest apart from the holy and the sacred and from God? So Jesuits talk about consolation, desolation all of the time. So the fourth step is seeking forgiveness. Now, we know that not every moment, as you recall it in your day, is going to be bright, happy, and joyful. There's going to be people that you've hurt. You might have had an argument with a coworker. You might have said something not the most pleasant or uplifting to a son or a daughter. You might have made some mistakes in your day that you wish you could take back. And so step 4 is seeking forgiveness for all of that. The times where really those are the times of desolation, where you either acted or spoke or thought contrary to what the sacred, the holy, what God is calling you to be and to do. So that can sometimes be the most challenging part, because that's looking at your shadow, that's looking at your darkness, that's looking at things that did not go well. It's fun and great to look at all of the great people you met and all the beautiful events that happened in your day, but to look at the dark side sometimes can be kind of rough.
Mm-hmm. And then step 5, which is probably the most important, because what's the point of going through all of this if you're not going to change, if you're not going to do something about it, if you don't look at what comes next? So step 5 is about resolving to change. What in your behavior or your attitude are you going to try to improve for tomorrow and going forward? And what is the plan for the next day? What are you going to do better? What are you going to look for more throughout your day going forward? So this step 5 is kind of like, okay, put it into action now.
So those are the 5 steps. So just kind of quick review. First step is to give thanks. Second step, ask for light, that the sacred and the holy, that God is shining a light on all the events and people of your life each day. The third step is to examine the day, to go, as Katie said, to go through your every moment of the day, the people, the events, the places you went and met, and just review that. Probably takes the longest. Fourth step is to seek forgiveness for those times where we fell short or where we had some dark times in our life during that day. And then the fifth step is to resolve to change, to kind of set the course for the next day and then get about living the next day.
Mm-hmm. So, Tony, what do you think about, let's actually do it. Let's give our listeners an example of how we can actually do this.
Digging into the life of Katie. Okay, well, here we go.
Well, who said we're just doing Katie? I think we're going to try both of us.
All right. So the first step's giving thanks. We're just asking asking God, asking the spiritual, asking the holy to help us to remember what happened yesterday,
mm-hmm.
right? So that's what we're about. Mm-hmm. Is there's not a whole lot more than that. Just please help me to remember, because we can have a little bit of living amnesia, mm-hmm. right? Especially we will repress the bad stuff that happened yesterday, but sometimes we even forget all the good things that mm-hmm. happened, the great people we met. So mm-hmm. just asking for that.
Yeah, like for example, I did not have a great day yesterday. I had a really kind of low day, and so this is important to kind of reflect on what was the good stuff too. So you don't always focus on the good, and you don't always focus on the bad. Life is somewhere in between.
So step 1, we're giving thanks for it all. Mm-hmm. The good, the bad, and the ugly, right? Mm-hmm. Second step is asking God to help us to remember all that happened to us yesterday. And so just enlighten us, bring it all back into our consciousness. So then the third step, mm-hmm. we examine the day. So mm-hmm. what's a couple of good things that happened? We'll start there.
Yeah. So, of course, waking up is always a good thing. Waking up, feeling well, putting my feet on the floor is always a good thing. coming to church, and I, I do the live streaming for the Mass. So doing live streaming for the Mass, and I have to remind myself, because I do it so often, that I'm providing a service that is a gift for those that are homebound, that can't get to daily Mass. So reminding myself that I was doing something good. The low kind of parts of my day was
desolation times.
Yeah, the desolation. Yeah, so the consolation times were, especially was at Mass and feeling that connection to God by bringing God to others. The desolation moments were, I actually went to a funeral for a former student of mine, was killed in a car accident, 20 years old, and those are the moments that you're like, why? Where is God in this? How do we go forward? Crying and being in that environment where you just see the devastation. But then from that, to see the consolation pieces was, I saw former students and former parents and just the embrace and the hugging and catching up, and just the circumstances were not the best for coming together, but being together made up for it.
Yeah, and for me, I would say just a couple consolation things, events that happened in my life. One was I was able to meet with a woman who is 96 years old and her family, and it was just amazing to find out how many connections there were in our past, where she grew up, the church that she goes to now, the people she knows through all of those situations. There was just so many connections. It was really cool to have a conversation with her. She also had some amazing candy that she offered me, so that was a good consolation. Last night we had Taizé prayer, which is a prayer form that originates from France, and we had that here at the parish. And I just that's one of my favorite prayer forms, and so for me that's really a consolation moment. Desolation, I think just seeing people who are hurting. I knew a couple of our staff people who were going to this funeral, and to see them and their reactions to having lost this young man, that's for me, that's kind of a desolation moment. So then the fourth step is seeking forgiveness. Anything that went on in your life that you go, oh my gosh, I better shake that up a little bit.
Yeah, there are definitely some moments where, because I was in kind of a funky mood, maybe I was a little short with people, not my usual jovial self all the time. So how, asking for forgiveness to not let another part of my life kind of affect how I treat another person. So that's definitely a place that I needed to kind of focus forgiveness on. And
I'd say for me, last night, one of the things that happened when I came home from church was that I was, it's dark and if I remember right, it was kind of snowing just a little bit. And I was making a turn and a runner was just coming across the street, and he didn't have any reflective gear on. He had a little headlight on his head, but didn't see him, and I almost nailed him. And I had a few choice words for the man.
That we will not say now.
We won't say them now. He didn't hear them. They were said in the privacy of my car. But, I probably could ask for some forgiveness and maybe a little more patience with people on the road, So, which leads us to how to resolve to change. So, what did we, as we moved into this day, is there anything that we resolved to do today that would make a difference in our lives?
Yeah, for me to, not dwell on the sadness of the moments. Yes, there was some sadness, but not let it to bring me down completely, to look for the good in life and look for, okay, yes, there's sadness in life, but let's lift up the good moments and not let the sadness bring us down.
And for me, I know today is a full day, and so I know that anything positive that happened yesterday, I want to bring that positive energy into today. Anything that was desolation or negative yesterday, I want to kind of leave that in the dust, because because that's going to be important as I move into this day. So that's kind of how it works. It's not rocket science. It's a beautiful tool to use to really reflect on what the day was all about, and where did you find the spiritual, where did you find the holy in your life, in all those ordinary events of your life. Also, where did you find that you felt really alone and apart from the holy, apart from the spiritual, apart from God? What were those moments as well? And so this tool, the Examen from St. Ignatius and the Jesuits, helps us to do that.
So, Tony, I kind of talked about, I kind of do this when I'm going to bed, reviewing my day, getting ready for, slumber to come, getting ready for the next day. When do you do it?
So I tend to, usually I'm reading before I go to sleep, and then I conk out. So it's usually not my best time. Right. But so I get up every morning and walk early in the morning, and that's my best time to do the Examen. So what I'm doing is looking back on the previous day, and then looking forward as we look at step 5 to what's this day now going to hold for me. So for some, the evening's not going to be the best. For me, it's the morning walk. For others, it might be when they're on their commute to work. Maybe that's their best time, because this doesn't have to be a long thing. These 5 steps can take 10 minutes. So if your commute is 10, 15 minutes, perfect. Pay attention to the traffic pattern.
Yeah.
But that can work for people. For some, it's when they're folding laundry or doing the dishes or any other brainless task that's around the house that you have to do. Washing the windows, whatever, vacuuming. So it can be something different for everybody, but it's a fairly simple process. So that's what this podcast is all about, trying to find the sacred in the ordinariness of our lives. How is that revealed? And hopefully you can use the Examen as you go forward in finding the sacredness in the ordinariness of your life. Thanks for joining us for this podcast.
This has been Revealed, a podcast sponsored by Resurrection Catholic Parish in Green Bay, Wisconsin.